Hey there. Good, how are you? Where's your seatmate tonight? Mate tonight. Yeah.
Call to order a meeting for the Norristown Council for February 3rd, 2025. Please call the roll.
Mayor Coos,
Here.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Here.
Mrs. Harris, Mr. Byers,
Here.
Ms. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Preston,
Here.
Mr. McCarthy.
Here.
We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to We have no public comment tonight, so we'll go right into the omnibus agenda items that are considered routine and will be handled with one vote unless a council member would like to pull an item for discussion. Seeing none.
Move approval.
Thank you. Items on the omnibus tonight are approval of the minutes of the work session of January 21st, 2025, approval of the minutes of the regular council meeting of January 21st, 2025, and a report to receive and file town of Normal expenditures for payment as of January 29th, 2025. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Aye.
Ms. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Byers,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Preston,
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy,
Aye.
Mayor Coos.
Aye. Those items are approved, and we have 3 items of general orders tonight. The first is a resolution authorizing an agreement with Rivian Automotive for the extension of public infrastructure within the North Normal 2 WH subdivision.
Move approval.
Second.
Questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Ms. Harris, Mr. Byers,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Preston,
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy,
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Aye.
Mayor Coos.
Aye. That resolution is approved. Item 8 is a resolution authorizing a reimbursement agreement with Rivian Automotive for the installation of a sanitary sewer main along West College Avenue.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Byers,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Preston,
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy,
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Aye.
Ms. Harris,
Aye.
Mayor Coos.
Aye. That resolution is approved. And again, on Rivian, we have a resolution conditionally approving the final plat for the NN2 WH subdivision west of Rivian Motorway.
Move approval.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Preston,
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy,
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Aye.
Ms. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Byers,
Aye.
Mayor Coos.
Aye. That resolution is approved. Under new business, we have presentation on the status of the 2023 strategic plan. Jacob, Pam, do you have some introductory?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Council, this evening, we would like to have a presentation. Mr. Smith is going to share with you some information about the status of our strategic plan, projects that we've been working on, share our progression toward those goals, and a little bit of what you can expect for current fiscal or upcoming fiscal year. So following Mr. Smith's presentation, staff will be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Go ahead.
All right. Thank you, City Manager Reese, and thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm eager to update you tonight on the strategic plan, including the progress that Town of Normal staff has made on goals within the plan, tools we've used as a team to work the plan, and next steps as we look ahead as an organization. To jump in just a little bit before that, let's take a moment to refresh on that 2023 strategic planning process, priorities, and goals. In 2022, the town partnered with the Northern Illinois University Center for Governmental Studies to work with stakeholders, staff, council, and other partners to develop strategic priorities and goals. This plan was ultimately adopted in 2023, and you might recognize the cover looking something like that. From the overarching planning process, 4 primary themes were identified: innovative economic growth, infrastructure and core services, organizational effectiveness, and community engagement and development. To further these strategic priority areas, 28 more specific goals were identified as follows. I won't go over every goal tonight just for the sake of time, and I know you're all pretty familiar with a lot of them, but these goals, they were categorized by both target timeline and complexity. Shorter-term routine goals include those that are more targetable and concrete generally, such as completing a review of town fee structure. While not a small task, it's specific and has a clear path to completion. Long-term routine goals, on the other hand, we have a similar, short-term complex goals exist with a similar target timeline, but with more detail or planning needed in some cases, such as the goal of exploring pension funding strategies. While we know that the goal has a clear target timeline, there's going to be a little more complexity based on budget, financials, or other goals and achievements. Going on then to more of our long-term routine goals, they have a focused target but require more of a timeline. This could include the execution of strategies from PACER studies. The goal is to complete the PACER study. We have a clear target and to add that tool to our tool belt for infrastructure planning. But as we know, infrastructure is a topic that takes a lot of time due to funding, planning, and other considerations. And then finally, long-term complex goals tend to be our furthest reaching or more intensive initiatives, such as a PFAS plan or a polyfluorinated substances. I shouldn't have picked the one with the hardest name to pronounce, which relies on federal direction, local analysis, budget considerations, and many other moving mechanisms that can affect each other. So these goals tend to have a little bit longer of a timeline and a few more moving pieces. Moving right along to our next section, we're going to be jumping into some of our progress in 2024 and trends identified within the work of the plan. Of those 28 goals mentioned, I'm very happy to note that all but 4 of them have some progress or action going on them at this point. Within all of our 28 goals, we tend to track those with 4 primary statuses. Completed, meaning council has acted on this matter or that staff has completed necessary internal work that's necessary to be satisfactory, check that item off and say that we kept that promise that we put forth in the plan. In progress, meaning that there's still work to be done, but the staff is actively working through those processes or council still has that work to consider. Not started, like I said, with some of the long-term goals in the plan. These items have not yet reached the point where they are in full focus. And then ongoing. Ongoing goals can be a little bit confusing from in progress, but ongoing goals tend to be our more interactive, overarching items. So 2 of these goals could include increased citizen engagement led by our communications team or evaluate staffing needs by our HR team. They're critical to the work we do as an organization. They're important to prioritize in the plan, but there's not really going to be a time where we could say, yes, we have completely finished working with citizens and engagement. We want to keep that in the plan to prioritize that in the long run. As I mentioned, happy to note that only 4 of our goals haven't been started, with all 24 other goals in progress and on the way to some exciting notes for you all in future items. There we go. As mentioned, these goals were introduced in early. Looks like something got mixed up. That's okay though. Since we have introduced dashboards, which I'll be getting to in just a moment, we introduced those in early 2024, and our staff has used these to also track significant progress in the organization and on the goals within the strategic plan. Since we've introduced those, 92 comments or updates have been provided across all goals. I'll be getting to those dashboards in just a moment. And key performance indicators have been developed for all goals. Exploring key performance indicators was significant to us for a number of items. It helps us to measure what we're doing and make more data-driven decisions. One example KPI for Fire Station 2 is to lower fire response time, because while the goal may be to build a fire station, the reason we're doing that is to better service our residents and to provide better response in the case of those incidents. In 2024, we saw 2 main trends among goals, as we were seeing progress on those items. We saw some goals that required lengthier planning stages, but now are on the horizon for next steps and actions. This could include planning work for North Normal Infrastructure Solutions, which has been supported through a variety of cross-department collaboration and conversation, the completion of Fire Station 2, which, due to many hours of work from pretty much every department that's part of the town, is expected to be completed in the fall, or the advancement of sustainability efforts and awareness, which made major strides through Council's adoption of the sustainability plan recently. But we also hope to continue advancing our sustainability efforts through collaboration with partners such as the Ecology Action Center. I also noted that some projects are on the horizon, but due to timing, funding, or otherwise, they're on the horizon, right? One of these might be Fire Station 3. It's an item that we know is on the horizon. We want to keep in consideration with that larger plan, but we're working on Fire Station 2. There's a process to it. Some of these other wait and sprint items could also include like the special census, where timing is going to be imperative to get an accurate count of our community, or planning for the development of Uptown, where funding and developing those strong partnerships are the items that are really going to help us move those forward. Now, here are those dashboards and internal tools I was talking a little bit about earlier. These are items that we've introduced at the beginning of this year, or the beginning of 2024, excuse me, and staff has been using internally. Here, I've included our communications development dashboard to show an example of what our team sees when looking at strategic plan goals for their specific department. A dashboard like this was created for internal use for each of our departments so they can better track progress and deadlines. In the top left, you can see that one module, increased citizen engagement. That's one of the specific goals outlined in the plan. This lets each department know what items they're driving and they want to make progress on. Directly to the right of that module, you can see recent discussion. That's a spot where people can leave comments, talk to each other about what's going on to advance these goals. You can see I actually included an update all about normal, class that took place in fall of 2024, and I believe we have one of our attendees in the audience, so works out well. You can also see below then some quick summary charts of everything that is on communications radar, with both primary goals by priority and status, and then secondary goals. Primary goals being ones that communications driving, secondary goals being ones where communications may be supporting. They're not the ones in the driving seat, but communications is going to be a vital part of that process. I've also included the city manager's strategic plan overview, which allows for our leadership to quickly check in with the wider picture. This is recapping the stats that we talked about a little bit earlier, while allowing City Manager Reese and other members of the administration team to quickly dive in and check on progress of goals as we know timelines are approaching, or as we know that progress needs to be made. So just a quick peek behind the curtain. As we look ahead to 2025 and onward, there are some exciting notes to share with you all. 2025 looks to be a significant year in terms of progress on a number of projects, from the completion of Fire Station 2 to work on internal processes and plans. Many goals identified in the 2023 strategic plan can expect updates coming soon. I'm not going to dive too much into all of those goals now, just for the sake of time and to make sure we can focus on questions that you all may have. But between the near concluding goals I'll list on the slide, from that fire station that I've mentioned a couple of times, fee structure, our art plan, smart cities, economic development, and PACER, it's exciting. It's clear to say that staff is in for an exciting but busy year. As we look even a little further ahead to 2026, staff hopes to re-engage Northern Illinois Center for Governmental Studies, or NIU-CGS, and refresh the strategic plan beginning at end of year 2025, with the ultimate target being a refreshed and adopted strategic plan in 2026. Make sure our goals are still on track, make sure that we have a clear roadmap of work to be completed as a team, and to make sure that the priorities of council are ones that we can deliver to our residents. I don't think this would be a strategic planning discussion in normal without saying the following. We plan our work and we work our plan. And on behalf on staff, I'm very excited to continue bringing updates on this plan as we continue to make that progress. With that, I'm very happy to jump back into any items or answer questions as we can, or pass it back over to City Manager Reese. Thank you very much.
Mr. Smith, I was going to ask you if you could take us a few slides back to show the graphic of the number of information about the number of projects that have started. There we go. 2 that are complete, 15 in progress, 4 not started, 7 ongoing. This particular slide doesn't go into specific detail of all of the goals of the plan, but we did want to highlight for council that we are moving forward and continue to progress, I think, on the 28 goals of the strategic plan. What's sitting at your place this evening is an executive summary that was part of the strategic plan. This does not highlight all 28 goals. It simply highlighted the top 3 goals of each category. The strategic plan can be found on the town's website, on the main page of our website, which is www.normalill.gov. If you look at the main homepage of the website and you go to the bottom of the page, there's an option to select the strategic plan. So you can click on that and the entire document will come up. Anyone can read that plan and see, just learn a bit about the process and the goals that we've identified. But the 28 goals are very, very detailed. Some are more general, but very, very comprehensive in terms of where council had given us direction to focus our attention for really 3 to 5 years was our target. And I have been in conversation with Northern Illinois University Center for Governmental Studies about coming back in the fall and starting the process for a refresh. But we didn't want to take time to go over all 28 of the priorities, but we did want to let council know we are progressing and then give you some of these highlights in the executive summary. But since council's pretty familiar with the priorities and certainly familiar with our budget and our goals that we've identified in all of our various conversations, we are prepared to answer any council questions you might have about any of the strategic plan priorities.
Great. Ms. Smith?
Yes, and please, if you would, refresh for my mind what the timetable was for this strategic plan, because I know the budget, we tend to look at a 5-year budget, but it also looks back over 10 years. So what time period was the strategic plan addressing?
Strategic planning can be a little bit more jazz, quite frankly. I think our longest ranging goals were going out to 2022 or 2032 or 2033 in some cases. Those were infrastructure or I think water-related goals as well. Thinking about those long-term plans that we want to plant the seeds on, or those long-term goals we want to plant the seeds on now. Some goals as well that were more of a 6-month. Let's start a review. Let's make sure it's on the table. So really kind of close to a 10-year plan in our 3-year plan, but it's the focus of the plan was to have a summary of work to begin or keep in the front of mind for staff within that kind of 3 to 5 year period that the plan was active for.
And when goals require departments to collaborate in achieving a successful outcome for that specific goal, how are the goals assigned then within the departments? Are they split up, or does one department receive primary responsibility?
Yeah, the way the plan's laid out, it is for a singular department to have that lead responsibility. I'm going to bring back this communications dashboard once again. You can see those secondary goals in that module kind of to the lower right. That shows not the detail on the goals from this quick screenshot, but the number of goals. You can see there they have 5 goals where they are not driving that item, they're supporting. Now, there are certainly goals within this plan that it would not be fair to say communications was not an equal driver to maybe one of the other participants on that plan or on that goal. It just helps for an organizational sense to keep one person in the driver's seat so we can have that communication. But I don't necessarily want to speak to how all of our different department heads are working through their different items or working through that. That's how it's designed within the plan, at least.
Right. I'll supplement that with each of the goals is identified in this we're using this Smartsheet tool to track our progress, and each department can access the tool and then fill in their role or any update they might have on that particular goal. So there's one department that's identified as the primary lead, and then we've identified all the various sub-leads. For example, zoning code review will be led by planning and zoning, but very much supported by the legal department and others directly relevant. And so we have the key department identified and then the supporting departments, and anyone can put in relevant information on helping progress that goal.
And if possible, could you please identify the 4 goals that have not yet started?
The 4 goals that have not yet started, I meant to bring this up with me. It's on my desk. The 4 goals that have not yet started, I can tell you, are Fire Station 3, which I kind of used as the obvious example there. I believe the special census is another one that is a timing-based matter. I would have to check on the other two. I'm more than happy to do that and make sure that gets back to council.
I will jump in and help. The third one is a new public library. We have not gotten that under construction yet, so that hasn't moved forward quite yet. And the fourth one is a plan for a new station for Normal Police Department, presuming that we're moving forward with development on the south side of the tracks that we call Uptown 2.0. That will require a plan for Normal PD.
Okay.
So those are the four things that we can identify as not yet started. Everything else we have gotten underway, and I think Mr. Smith did a great job of pointing out the ongoing items. Our strategic plan includes a number of matters where council directed us and identified as goals to move forward in various things, such as implementation of the PACER study and investment in infrastructure. Those are two examples that we're never going to be done. We can't check the box and say we're done. That will constantly be ongoing, and we will continue to update the PACER study to make sure we're progressing in our pavement management. And same thing with infrastructure. We'll continue to invest in infrastructure. So those are a couple of examples of ongoing goals. We'll never say we've achieved it and we're done.
And so this update that we're getting is from our 2023 sessions with the consultants from NIU. And when they delivered this to us, how often did they recommend formally revisiting it in depth the way we spent the day?
Actually, for clarification, it was the end of 2022 when we finished this process, and council formally adopted this document in early 23. I believe when we last met with Center for Governmental Studies to put this final document together, I think they indicated 3 to 4 years would be a good time to refresh and make sure we're still on the same page, identify the goals for the next time period. And so that's why they reached out to us to find out if we were interested in 2025 to start the process. And I have asked them to look at a date for fall to begin the process so that in early 26 we can adopt an updated strategic plan.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Other questions? Thank you, Mr. Smith. Oh, that was a sneaky one. I was like, Ms. Lorenz.
Okay, so I'm trying to put together this presentation with some of the discussion at our last meeting about the strategic plan, and we've gotten some follow-up information from City Manager Reese about what was reflected in the strategic plan, and that was about 6 or 8 of the elements of the strategic plan.
In the proposed budget.
That are in the proposed budget, yeah. Are we able to drill down and know, kind of in a SMART goal, measurable way, where we're moving the needle on those items, particularly in the budget, and really maybe on all 28? I mean, you've broken them down by, started, not started, and progress, but I'm looking for a little more detail. Do we have that somewhere?
Yeah, a lot of that is tracked within the internal tools that we have now, and a lot of it isn't following that SMART kind of framework that you had referenced. SMART being specific. Let's see if my MPA came in handy.
Yeah.
Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely.
Yeah, I think so.
Nailed
Very
it.
good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't the initial framework in that planning, so it's kind of hard to add back in those details where it maybe wasn't carried through from the start. A lot of them have that by virtue of the work we do. That initial analysis took into mind SWOT, more specifically strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, threats. And since then, we've added in KPIs, attainable data points that we can track to see a measurable result for our residents, as well as target goalposts, which is kind of a fluffier middle ground. To reference the fire station, which I already did, if the goal is to build a fire station, the result of that will be to lower delivery times. If the goal is to complete a PFAS study, the result of that would be to have higher water quality in some form, right? There are ways we can draw that thread out, and that's been a really beneficial tool for folks on staff internally, mostly because trying to go back and reinvent that, tactics like SMART, SWOT, or whatever other frameworks we want to make sure are kept in mind. I feel personally that 2025, 2026 is a great time to make sure we're keeping those details on the
Sure,
books.
so KPIs are fine, whether you call it SMART KPI, I mean, they all kind of get at the
Absolutely.
same thing. So do we have access to those KPIs?
Right. We will work to figure out a way to condense the dashboard or detailed information about all the 28 goals so council can see where we are in the progression of those and get that out to you as a follow-up. I appreciate that. I think I can share that while this is an internal document and helping us make sure we're moving forward, someday, and maybe with the next update, we will be working with the innovation and technology team to figure out how we can pull some of these measures and make it for public viewing so they can see our strategic plan and actually watch live how we are progressing in each of these goals. So we're working on that. That's Ms. Gattaraju's nodding. She's got a big old thumbs up. She can hardly wait to get going with that, but it's a work in progress.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yeah, real quick, Mayor, thank you. First, thank you for the presentation and the revisiting and the update. I appreciate this. It's easy for us to get lost in budget approvals and land deals and forget to ask about these sorts of things. So this was wonderful, and I was going to put support for a regular, but I know we've had a dashboard discussion, Ms. Gattaraju and I, prior, but I'm glad to hear that that's where we're going with this, and that this internal is targeting eventually to be outward facing. So however that works, whether we do it annually or we get it on a dashboard, either or both would be great. Thank you. And congratulations on the progress.
Ms. Harris.
Thank you. One of the things I wanted to also highlight, because you kind of brought it up in the comments, made me say something, is the fact that it seems like this whole dashboard is basically homegrown, which is a difficult thing to manage and be able to, especially when you're talking about managing projects, work efforts, goals. I think the other thing to add to this, in thinking about it as we're growing and moving forward, is beyond just being able for the general public to see it, is to figure out ways that you can continue to integrate. And I think I know it's harder because of the fact that it's homegrown, a homegrown thing. But I know working in doing this type of work and having access to better programs, what that can do for you. But again, that might be more for Ms. Gattaraju on how to do the integration, so that it'll make it easier for clicks, even for you all going forward, as well as beyond outside user interfaces. So I do see the need for, or the possibilities of having that. But I love where it's going, and my hat's off to the city, or the town, I should say, for really taking the initiative to create something that's really not available for municipalities, and having to build homegrown. It's hard to do this and maintain it on a consistent basis. So my hat's off to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the update. That requires no action. Under new business, we have a motion to adjourn to executive session, but before taking that motion, are there comments or concerns? Ms. Smith?
I just wanted to highlight that as the slides were being displayed, there was in real time typing going on, catching the dialogue, which I'm hoping is just another indication that we're working to be fully accessible. And I appreciate that is happening. So thank you to whoever's been working on that.
Ms. Lorenz.
Yeah, I'd just like to welcome the scout troop that is here. They're earning their communications badge, and I met them on the way in, and just glad to see you here, and hopefully you enjoyed the content. And our very own mayor is an Eagle Scout, so you got a good one right here.
So, to help the scouts on their communication badge, we're about to go into executive session, and what that is a private discussion that we have that will eventually become public, but the discussion is private at this point. And we're only allowed to discuss 3 different items. That would be land acquisition, that would be personnel issues, and that would be collective bargaining issues. So we have periodic discussions about those items maybe prior to them being approved, and that minutes are taken. There is audio tape of the meetings, and those will be released at some point once we deem it appropriate to not keep it confidential. So with that, a motion to adjourn to executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll. A motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss matters of collective bargaining. Mr. Day, as you
So moved.
you gave me that look.
Second.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Preston?
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy?
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz?
Aye.
Ms. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Byers? Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Kus?
Aye, we are adjourned to executive session. Thank you.